All right, so I got this chuck all mounted up, and it's working great. Runs nice and true. The one thing that I'm having an issue with is it's not real easy to move the jaws. Whenever you turn the scroll, it's just real tight. The number 2 jaw does fit really tight in here. The other 2 will slide easily. The number 2 is super tight. The first thing I'm gonna do is take it apart. We're gonna, I got this thing all mounted up, got the back plate machine, got it running within 1/2 thousandth. But I'm gonna dismount this from the back plate, and we're gonna completely disassemble this chuck and just go through it, and I'm gonna clean it all up. That way at least I know that the internals are clean, the internals should be moving smooth, and if it's all just down to the number 2 jaw, then we'll deal with that. So let me get this thing unmounted, we'll get it over here on the table, and we'll start tearing into it. Okay, the chuck's off. We're gonna unmount the backing plate. Okay, so it looks like we got 3 Allens here, 3 Allens here. These look like they hold the pins in. I'm assuming these 3 here, and this whole thing's going to pop out here. First, we need to get the jaws out. Probably should have done this part whenever it was on the lathe. And see, this is the number 2 jaw, and it just fits in this slot tight. Now, the scroll is relatively easy to move, but we're going to take it apart, see how it's put together. We'll clean it up if it's dirty, and get it all cleaned out. Let me find an Allen wrench for these. Tubal Cain did a video on taking a 3-jaw chuck apart. It's a little bit different chuck than what this one is. I'm assuming it's probably going to be pretty close to the same setup, but we'll see. Let me go ahead and take these out. Smaller. And I think these right here, all they do is hold these in. I don't even know what these are called. The pinion, maybe. I guess I ought to mark it just to make sure that it goes back together the same. Pretty dry in there, so you got this pin. Where am I at here? I don't know if you can see that. It's got a little shoulder on it, fits right in there, prevents the, I'm going to call this the pinion. I don't know if that's what it's called. I don't even know if these have to come out first. All right. So that's what we got there. It looks like, okay, now that should come. I'm just going to take a dead blow. See if I can loosen that up. There's the scroll part of it. Got a little bit of rust on it from sitting around, looks like, but all in all, not too bad. So now that I got the scroll out, I'll be able to, one of the things that I'm thinking I'm probably going to need to do is get into these grooves and clean the edges out. Not sure exactly how I'm going to do that now. It depends on what I find in there. If it's just, I don't know if it's going to be rust, possibly, or caked up grease that's just solidified to the point to where it's just a hard, nasty, substance that's preventing the jaws from sliding easily. And now that the scroll's out of there, why don't we, so like here's the number 1 jaw. See how tight they fit? Number 3. And here's the number 2. Number 2 is the worst out of all of them. So what I gotta do is figure out what is it, the sides that's binding it up? Is it the width? And that's what I want to do, is figure out what exactly is going on in here so that I can get in there and get that cleaned out to where they'll slide the way they're supposed to. So we're going to start here on number 2 since it's the worst. Hopefully I can actually see what's going on. Let me get my glasses. I mean, I can see some stuff down on here that looks like dried up grease. Get in there with a pick. Yeah, it looks like dried up grease. Looks like there's a bunch of dried up grease or I don't know, some kind of thick, crusty substance in there. So I'm just gonna get in there. I'm gonna clean it up. See if I can get these jaws to slide in and out, and then I'll be back. Okay, got the number 2 jaw. Sliding back and forth, beautiful, silky smooth. What I ended up having to do was I went in there with a pick, and I picked away any debris in the corners of both the jaw and on the chuck. Went in there with some Scotch-Brite. I cut a piece of Scotch-Brite to where it just fit inside the slot. And I took just an Allen, got in there, scrubbed it out real good till I got it about as clean as I could get it. It would still bind up right about whenever it'd get to about that position, about almost whenever it'd get to the midway position, it would bind up where I'd have to tap it in with a hammer. So I thought, all right, I don't have no lapping compound, and lapping compound, to be honest, would be a little bit too coarse for what I would want. So what I did is I took my Mother's Mag and aluminum polish. You guys have probably heard of Flitz, Brasso, however it's pronounced. I use this stuff to polish out all kinds of stuff. Brass, aluminum, steel. I love this stuff. You can get a whole little container of this stuff. I can't remember how much it is, $5 or $6 I think at Walmart. Maybe even cheaper than that, I can't remember. But the stuff works miracles. So I took a little bit of that, smeared it into the grooves of both the chuck and the jaw. And at first I had to tap it with a hammer to get it to go. Then it got to where I could move it back and forth. It literally took 60 seconds. And I had it sliding back and forth effortlessly. So that took care of this problem. The number 2 was, like I said, the worst jaw out of the 3. I'm going to go ahead and do the same to the other 2. Get it all cleaned up on the inside. Get the scroll cleaned up the best I can. Give it a good rinsing out with some brake cleaner. Lightly oil it. I'll put it back together. Whenever I get to that point, I'll turn the camera back on it. A little bit of mag wheel polish in the grooves. Literally 60 seconds worth of working it back and forth, and it basically polished out the slot to where now it's just butter smooth. So I'm going to go ahead and do the other 2, and then I'll come back and we'll press on. Okay, I thought I'd show you guys the last jaw. This is jaw number 1. I just got started on it. Coating it up with polishing compound. Let me zoom in a little bit. I'll show you how this acts. Now, 1 wasn't actually very bad, but once I got it in here, it's getting kind of tight. So got the polishing compound on it. You can see how tight that seems to be. And it's right around, but all 3 of them was right around the middle. So I'm just going to kind of knock it back and forth however many times it takes. Number 2, I did 2 first. It actually was the quickest. I did number 3, and it took a little bit more work. I spent probably 4 or 5 minutes on it. So I don't know how long it's going to take for number 1. Smear some of this compound back in here. And every now and then I'll take it out. I'll check to see where the compound is being wiped off at. And it looks like right here on this edge right here. So I'll just run my finger down, put a little bit more compound on that edge. And I want to put it in backwards and give it a couple whacks. With the mindset that what going with it turned around the right way, what it doesn't take off, putting it in backwards might take a little bit more off of the areas that need to be worked on. The nice thing about this Mothers is when you compare it to like Flitz and the other compounds, you get a lot more for your money going with the Mothers, and it's probably pretty close to the same, to the same stuff. I know that just about everything that I do with it, whether it's brass, and I've used Flitz. I actually bought a tube of Flitz just to compare to this. I couldn't tell a difference. The Flitz was about the same price as this, but I get about 4 times as much Mothers as I do Flitz. So I keep buying the Mothers. In this is well, I can't read it. It's scratched off, but it's the big container of it. Take it out every now and then, just make sure that, because wherever it's going to be polishing, it's obviously going to be scrubbing itself off of that particular area. So you want to reapply it. So basically what we're doing is lapping this in with a polishing compound instead of actual lapping compound. Lapping compound's a lot coarser than this, so I probably would have already been done with this had I used lapping compound, but I don't want to take any actual metal off. I just want to polish out the high spots so that these jaws will slide smoother than what they are. Because what I was worried about is eventually, since all 3 of these were tight, number 2 being the tightest, that it would wear out the scroll prematurely. Because just moving them in and out without any material and cranking down on it, obviously is going to be harder on the scroll, turning those tight jaws in and out. And you can kind of see how it's already getting easier. And if anybody's heard of this Ashen company, knows anything about them, I looked them up on Google, didn't find a whole lot of information on them. If anybody knows any history or anything about them, leave me a comment. I just figured, I got this chuck, I don't know if you watched the other video, but I bought this chuck. It's new old stock. And it was cheaper than what I would have had to pay for a Chinese chuck. So I figured, I can't go wrong with that. It's made in England. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and clean this up. I'm going to go ahead and pause the video. I'm going to get all this cleaned up, slide it in and out dry, and then I'll probably end up putting a little bit more compound on it and doing it again, and I'll turn it back on for that. Okay, I got it all cleaned up, and and it's tight right in the center, probably about a 1/2 inch spot right in the center is where it gets tight. So I got it all buttered up again with the compound or polish, and we'll knock her through a couple more times, and we'll see how it comes out. It looks like right along this edge is where that compound's being wiped off, so that's got to be the tightest spot. I'm going backwards this time. Okay, zoom in a little bit. Hold on. Got everything cleaned up, got everything polished in. I'll put these jaws in, so we'll see how they look and feel. I'm going to put just a little bit of oil on each one. You don't really want to have a whole lot of oil on these because it causes the chips to stick instead of falling off. So just a light coat. Plus, if I missed any of the polishing compound, that oil will help kind of dilute it down and help wash it out of there. Let me get my glasses. All right, so here's 3. 1. Here's 2. Here's 3. There's 1. And there's 2. One's probably the stiffest now, but I mean, I'm fine with that. You'll be able to run it through with your hand. Should be fine, I would think. 3 is the best. And I mean, there's absolutely no no movement. So let's go ahead and get this thing put together. I'm gonna get some on the inside of this. The tolerances are close enough to where you don't get chips inside these. So I took it apart again. This was supposed to be new old stock. There wasn't a chip one anywhere on this truck since I've had it. It just looks like it's been sitting around for a long time. So I'm just going to put some whey oil down here on the surfaces that everything rides on. This is the scroll. I guess these are the pinions. At least that's what I call them. I'm going to take a little bit of grease. And I'm just putting a little bit of grease right here on the ends of these. And you know what? I'm going to put a bit of oil. But on the ends, I'm putting grease. They fit way in here in a little cavity. And I think grease will probably work great in there. Alright. Let me, I'll give you a picture of the inside of this. So that's what you got. You can see they just kind of fit right in these holes. Now get in there. There we go. And then, yeah, I got the screws soaking over here in some kerosene. To hold these in, you got these screws right here. They just fall right down in there. Prevents those from moving in and out. So I'm going to grease these up, the actual pinions and the gear, and then we'll put this back on, and then we'll slide the jaws in. We'll see how it moves then. Let me get it set back up on the mount. This is high pressure grease. I'm not going to put a lot on it. Let me get a brush. All right. This can screws up. All right, well, my card filled up, so I just had to go transfer all the stuff on it. I don't know where it filled up at, but got the truck all back together. Putting the backing plate on. I'm just going to put it on loose, that way I can get it on the lathe, and if I need to kind of tap it just a little bit to get it lined up perfect, I can do that. So I don't know where it quit or where it filled up at. But just to kind of show you, I mean, this thing runs in and out nice and smooth now. It's like night and day. So I'm going to go over here and put it on the lathe. Let me go clean the spindle up. We'll get this mounted on the lathe, and I'll get it dialed in. Okay, so I got you set up here where hopefully you can kind of see that indicator move. I'm going to get this on the high spot, which is about right there. Now, I got this to within 1/2 thousandth the first time. We're showing about 1.5 thousandth out right now. The chuck is not tight against the backing plate. It's snug, but it's not tight. So I'm just going to tap lightly. Okay, right there we're showing just a little bit more than 1/2 thousandth out, probably about 7. Okay, let me re-zero. You're right there's 0. That's actually better than before. I'm going to take this down a little bit closer to the where it just enters the jaws. me get you out of here. Okay, my phone seems to be able to focus closer. So we're spinning. And that's less than half a thousand. That ought to work. Anyway, that's the inside of a Ash & Company chuck. If anybody knows anything about these chucks, let me know. Later.